We are on to the semi-state edition of State Champs Indiana Extra Point, presented by Lawrence Technological University. My name is Greg Rakestraw, joined as always by Bob Stambazze. Thank you so much for joining us. We have now gone from 48 to 24 teams playing in the state of Indiana. One more round before we get to Lucas Oil Stadium. Let's get right to it. Let's get to Class 6A, where for the most part, the results held to form. Maryville beating Warsaw. Warsaw, a first-time regional participant. Carmel and Homestead, a little bit of a sluggish start for the Hounds, but they pull away in the second half to win. Ben Davis playing the upstart in Zionsville. Ben Davis onto the semi-state. The game we'll spend some time breaking down is the game that I had on the ISC Sports Network and my Indy TV. Center Grove avenging their season-opening loss at Warren Central as they beat the Warriors by a score of 28-14. The big story here, Baz, is that Carson Steele played for the first time all year. And while rightfully so, Charlie Spiegel has gotten most of the attention as far as running backs in the state of Indiana are concerned. Carson, a young man that is a junior, as a freshman and sophomore, ran for a combined 4,100 yards, 6'2", 225, a major college recruit, either as a running back or maybe as a linebacker, some sort of position switch a couple of years down the road. 20 carries, 99 yards, 2 touchdowns, and just an overall emotional boost to lift Center Grove to a victory.
That's a great comment. A boost to Center Grove being able to come back. First game coming out, going to be in the regional final. And that, I mean, is just outstanding stuff. And to be able to contribute. Now, you're going to be a little gun-shy early. I don't care who you are coming back from an injury. You're going to be a little gun-shy and come back like that. That's awesome.
He warmed up and dressed, didn't play against Franklin Central in the sectional championship, and the Trojans really didn't need him. There was talk about him being on a pitch count. I think that went out the window after the first drive that he played. He may not have played in the first drive, or at least for the first down. And 20 carries, the way the Center Grove balances that wing T attack, that's a lot, but not an exorbitant amount of carries for a first time. Now it's something else that Ben Davis has to prepare for coming up on Friday night.
No doubt about it. He was working on the acceleration. He was working on getting hit. He's working on the timing. A lot of those factors in there. And then when you said maybe the pitch count, the carry is going to be where and what, but once they saw the rhythm set in, and that's the big thing you look at in this situation. 4
different running backs had carries for Center Grove on Friday night. They're all underclassmen. Their quarterback in Taven Jackson is a sophomore. Caden Curry, their leading tackler, 6'5", 250-pound defensive end. He is also a sophomore. Now, they're not thinking about next year because they have a legitimate shot of winning a state championship. They can get 2 more victories against Ben Davis and then either Carmel or Maryville. But, folks, I can tell you who I'm voting number 1 next year in the 6A preseason poll. It's going to be Center Grove. They want to be number 1 at the end of November. In 5A, Valparaiso blanked Mishawaka. Fort Wayne Dwenger got to a 28-0 lead over Harrison, and then Harrison kept it close in the second half, 35-21. Now we get to the game that drew the largest attention in the state. Stunning not in who won, but in the fashion in which they did. 35-10. New Pal drops Cathedral. The Irish led 10-7 and were driving in the third quarter. New Pal took off and left them. The Dragons, again, in the driver's seat. They still got to play a couple of good teams, but in the driver's seat to make it back-to-back 5A championships.
Let's face it, we talked about this game week 1.
Yes.
And when it finally come to fruition, what really surprised you here was when New Pal was able to put the big distance between him. Did you feel it was going to be much closer than that?
I thought it was going to be a 1-score game. And even if I thought Cathedral was going to win, I thought it was going to be a 1-score game. The fact that they were able to separate and do so as quickly as they did is really what catches my attention. Again, we'll get to our previews coming up in the next segment of the show. Bloomington South with Mo Moriarty. He will coach them up to give them a game plan to try to be competitive. I think the big hurdle left for New Pal is Valparaiso. So for those that think just because they beat Cathedral, they're done, they're the favorites, absolutely. But is it a done deal? No, because A, Mo Moriarty's on their sideline on Friday night, and B, I think Valparaiso is really good, not to mention Dwenger, the defending 4A state champs. So again, that's a quick look at 5A. In 4A, Hobart drops New Prairie. The Brickies back to the semi-state for the first time in 23 years. Memorial beats Mooresville. Fantastic game, 17-14. A bit of a surprise, Mount Vernon beating Roncalli 25-17. East Noble drops Mississinawa 30-14. Let's talk about that game when it's in your backyard.
East Noble, really, really good. We've talked about them all year. They're undefeated. They come in there against a very powerful and big Mississinawa team that a lot of people thought would be able to slug it out with East Noble. It was a counter-punch type of football game, but you got to give a lot of credit to the Knights of East Noble. Just kept plodding along because this was a great football game. And by the way, East Noble's good size up front also.
Right.
So these are two big teams, but East Noble just has, I think, a little bit better quarterback than what Mississinawa had.
Let's acknowledge in 4A and 5A, Memorial played in the last two 3A state championship games, having success in 4A. Dwinger won 4A last year, having success in 5A, two great traditional programs. How about Mount Vernon? They are to the semi-state in football for the first time in Mike Kirshner's second year at Mount Vernon. And for those that don't remember Mike, in the Indianapolis area, you don't have to explain this. Outside of Indy, Mike left Ben Davis after potentially having the best football team in the history of the state of Indiana. At Ben Davis 2 years ago, they went 14-0 and weren't challenged all season. Now at Mount Vernon, he's a game away from playing for the 4A state championship.
You know, I remember that move, and you're saying, huh? Really, but why are you leaving? But going down to Mount Vernon, a program that he has really elevated up, and this is going to be exciting for them.
Mount Vernon has always been solid, but
Yes.
they have never been this good. They've kind of been that. They've made the move enrollment-wise, 3A to 4A. I think in the near future, from football, they'll probably go to 5A just because the suburbs are heading out that way in northwestern Hancock County. Mike will do a great job, and the folks at Mount Vernon knew what a gift from above they got when Mike says, you know what? I think I'm going to go to a slightly smaller school, a bit of a change of pace, going from Ben Davis to Mount Vernon, and the Marauders reaping the benefits of it. In Class 3A, Mishawaka Marion, despite some injuries, blank Knox, 17-0. Danville beats Vincennes Lincoln by 3 scores on a long road trip. On a Saturday night game, Heritage Hills beat Lawrenceburg 22-0. Chittard all over Concordia, 56-28. I'm not sure there were any big surprises in 3A, Bob.
None that I could see in what I've been following. No.
And again, Chittard, and I'll apologize now to Mishawaka Marion, to Heritage Hills, and to Danville. There's Chittard and there's everybody else. And we've been saying that all season long, and I think that plays out. We had the Heritage Hills Lawrenceburg game on ISC. Heritage Hills was fantastic. Second time our cameras have covered them this year. Unfortunately, Garrett Yoon, the quarterback for Lawrenceburg, got hurt late in the second quarter. Did it affect the outcome of the game? I'm not sure. But what it did is really limited Lawrenceburg offensively and what they could do, because they were really a dual threat run-pass option attack with Yoon in the game. Unfortunately, he gets hurt, and they were limited to just the running game, and Heritage Hills really kind of ground them down during the course of the second half. In 2A, Andrean drops Lewis Cass 36-14. Eastbrook beats Eastside 42-9. Webo beats Heritage Christian 35-14. The major surprise, though, Triton Central beating Modern Day Saturday afternoon 13-7. Congratulations, Tim Abel and the Triton Central Tigers.
Unbelievable win right there. Beating a Modern Day team, a good Modern Day team. Been playing really good football for Triton Central, coming away with that win on Saturday afternoon. Awesome job. Again,
a lot of folks, I think, as this was starting to shape up, were thinking, all right, looking at Modern Day and Andrean potentially, or Lewis Cass and Modern Day. And again, Cass was rightfully so the number one team all season long. That was a one-score game in the fourth quarter. The 59ers on their home turf found a way to get the job done.
Yeah, and it was a tough field for both teams. But they were able to control the passing and the running that Cass has had all year long. And Drain did a fabulous job.
All right, in 1A, Central Catholic beat North Judson San Pierre 43-17. Lutheran avenged their semi-state loss last year to North Vermilion 56-21. Dub West Washington beats North Decatur 24-16. But the game that had our attention, the game we had circled on the calendar, again, all season long, Adams Central, South Adams. I think I need to explain they're in the same county. They're in the same conference. By the way, the conference is named after the county, but that's a conversation for a different day. They're in different sectionals. So they were going to meet in the regional. Most thought South Adams was the better team this year. They won the regular season game. But here's the Jets yet again. getting the job done in the postseason, and they're on to the semi-state for a second straight year.
Well, they're 10 miles apart.
Yeah.
Okay, plain and simple. But you look at the programs, the history that Adams Central has with them, it's on their side. Coach Mosser got them ready. It was 2 versus 4. It was both counties turn the lights out. The game is on, and that's the way it was played. But Adams Central came out, played very physical. South Adams could not get on track. Give a lot of credit to Coach Mosser and his game plan, and those kids played outstanding football.
So we are now down to 12 games across the state of Indiana, 2 in each classification. Winners go on to Lucas Oil Stadium on Thanksgiving weekend, and every semi-state game is going to be played on Friday. No Saturday semi-state games this year. So after this quick timeout, we'll come back and we will offer you thoughts and a prediction on every game that takes place in the state of Indiana this week. It's State Champs Indiana Extra Point, presented by Lawrence Ethnological University.
I've always been really good at math and science, and I knew I wanted to work in healthcare, but not as a doctor. So I chose Lawrence Tech's biomedical engineering program. I've pushed myself to take internships, like this one, at a hospital in an orthopedic research lab. Thanks to Lawrence Tech's unique, hands-on style of education, I'm graduating with a published research paper and a job. Lawrence Tech, where Blue Devils dare.
Welcome back on State Champs Indiana Extra Point, presented by Lawrence Ethnological University. Greg Rakestraw, Bob Stambazze. Thanks to Chris Landis and Greg Mash behind the scenes. Again, this program debuts every Wednesday at 5 on the various social media channels of State Champs Indiana. And you can watch episodes on the ISC Sports Network, where we film this show each and every week. Simply put, 2 games in each class. We'll offer thoughts and predictions on both games. Let's start with the 6A North. Maryville makes the trip to Carmel.
Well, Maryville has had a great season up in the region. Yep. Nobody knows about them. I mean, they're 11-1, but nobody really knows about Maryville like everybody knows about Carmel because it's Carmel. So this is going to be a great ball game. Maryville's got to go to Carmel. I'm going to take Carmel in this one, and I'm going to take them big. I'm going to take them 31-14.
All right, I'll take Carmel as well. I'll say maybe a little bit less of a margin of victory or of you. I would say maybe a 1 or 2 score game in there. Oh. I do think Maryville is a good team. I really do. I know that Carmel nearly got upended having to go to Valparaiso last year. Carmel gets to host this time. I just think their better level of competition will pay off. Let's say Carmel by 10 in that contest, but the Pirates are a really solid team. Now, the game that I will have on Friday night will be the 6A South semi-state. Ben Davis and Center Grove, when these two teams played in week 4, they were combined 1-5. Things have changed for each of these two schools. Baz, who you got in this one?
Well, I have to take Ben Davis. I'm a big Ben Davis fan. Of course, now with Center Grove getting back to full strength, may show a little bit strength on their offensive side that they haven't had all year. But I still got to take Ben Davis in this one, and I'm going to take him by 10 in this ball game.
Something I saw, maybe it's recency bias. I saw Center Grove last. Something about playing in that building in the Indianapolis area. I think Center Grove has the best atmosphere for football. They've kind of built it up on the hill. It's up on a horseshoe. The sound pours down, so to speak, onto the field. I think being at home is a big deal for Center Grove. I like the Trojans by 3 to make it to the state finals. And for the first time, it would be a team in 6A that was under 500 during the regular season. They were 4-5 to make the state championship game. 5A North semi-state, Dwenger and Valparaiso. Baz, who do you got?
Well, Valparaiso's 12-0. They got a quarterback who's thrown for 1,400 yards, 13 touchdowns. They got a running back, 1,500 yards, 21 touchdowns. But I'm going to take Dwenger. Lytle comes in there. Braden Lytle's thrown for over 2,000 yards, 17 touchdowns. But they've got some history on their side nobody thinks about. You remember Lewis. You remember Michael Lytle. Well, his son is on Dwenger's football team. I'm taking Dwenger by 7.
I'm taking Valparaiso by 10. I think they would have made the 6A semi-state had they not been dropped down in enrollment. They are the largest 5A school. And again, in talking with some buddies of mine from Carmel, they were quite happy the Vikings weren't in their path. I think they're one of the best teams in the state, period. I think Dwenger's really good. I think Valparaiso's better. I like the Vikings by 10 points in that one. Bloomington South and New Pal. Again, New Pal is the heavy favorite here. I've seen this script before from Moore Moriarty. I think he can keep the Panthers close. I'm not sure they got anything for New Pal.
I got to take New Pal, and I got to take New Pal by 14. I just think they're going to wear them down like exactly what happened last week, and then they're going to jet out by 14.
New Pal wins and does so by at least a couple of scores. 4A North, Hobart and East Noble. Both teams looking to get back to a state final for the first time in a long time.
A quarterback from Hobart is dangerous. He does a great job, 500 yards throwing the football, but he has 13 passing touchdowns. Johnson, 1,100 yards rushing. Then you look at East Noble. Their quarterback by the name of Parker, is also their leading runner. He's thrown for 2,700 yards. He's rushed for 1,200 yards. He's accounted for 55 touchdowns. I'm going to take East Noble in this one by 17.
I like East Noble by a touchdown or two here. Again, I think the home field factor does play to their benefit. Give me East Noble. Southern Indiana we go. Memorial, the host, Mount Vernon, makes the lengthy trip from the northeast side of Indianapolis.
You know, it's a long drive, right? They're going to Evansville. Well, I still got to take Mount Vernon. Coach, the energy that they now have brought it to the next level after a huge win last week. I think Mount Vernon sneaks by 3.
Knowing what Memorial graduated from last year, their all-time leading passer, their all-time leading receiver, I'm stunned that they're in this position, knowing you have to play up a class in 4A. But I'm taking Memorial. You know, so often teams from Indianapolis have made that drive, and it's been a long trip home. Memorial finds a way defensively to produce a short field, to make a couple of plays. And I think because the Memorial kids have been on this stage before, the Mount Vernon kids have not, and they're at home, I think it adds up to too much of an advantage for the Tigers. Give me the Tigers in another close game, but the Tigers win there. To the 3A North semi-state, Chittard at Mishawaka Marion.
Need we ask?
In the 3A South semi-state, Heritage Hills and Danville, a game you can see, and I'm sorry, Mishawaka Marion, that's not to denigrate you at all. Chittard is that good. In the 3A South semi-state, Heritage Hills at Danville. Danville, too, was 4-5 during the regular season, and here they are playing in a semi-state championship game.
But you look at Heritage Hills; they got 4 running backs over 500 yards. I got to take Heritage Hills this one. I'm going to take them big. I'm going to take them by 18.
Heritage Hills is big and physical. They've got a wall of offensive linemen that get in front of those running backs. Again, this is probably not Danville's best team in their last 4 years. You know, if the weather was different when they played Memorial a couple of years ago in the semi-state, maybe we're having a different conversation about what Danville have been able to do and getting to a state championship. And this is not their best team. Heritage Hills will win. It'll be a close game, but Heritage Hills will win. 2A North, Andrean and Eastbrook.
This is going to be a slobber knocker. I mean, you got Eastbrook, you've got Andrean, you've got Andrean coming in there with Ryan Walsh, 2,100 yards, rushing the football, 27 touchdowns. Noah Hamilton, their quarterback, over 1,300 yards. For Eastbrook, you got Bragg with just 600 yards throwing, Stevenson with 1,200 yards rushing, but 3 other rushers over 700 yards, accounting for 52 touchdowns. I'm going to take this an upset. I'm going to take Eastbrook over Andrean by a field goal.
I'll take Andrean in this one just because I know how good the two teams are they just beat, in Rensselaer and Lewis Cass. Eastbrook has a fantastic resume, and the fact that a team that graduated a ton from last year, they have made it back to the semi-state round. I just think Andrean's got too much in the talent perspective. Southern semi-state, Western Boone, Triton Central.
Well, not knowing a lot about either team other than they have 3 receivers come out of Western Boone with some yardage, but I got to take Triton Central. That was a huge win last week. Hopefully they can keep that adrenaline up, that excitement up to get a win this week.
I'll take Western Boone, the defending state champs that nobody has talked about all season long, and here they are playing for a chance to get back to Lucas Oil Stadium. Finally in 1A, the Jets make the trip across states to take on Central Catholic.
Hirely, an outstanding running back, good size, 6'1", about 220 pounds. Their stats, well, they're top secret up there at Adams Central, so I don't have those. But Swaller, their quarterback, well, he does a good job when he has to throw the football, runs that offense. Just class act back there. You also look at Lafayette Central Catholic coming in. Scares me. Lafayette Central Catholic is going to be hosting this game. I got to take Central Catholic in this one by 14. I just think it's going to be that big.
Close game, one-score game, but it's CC. And yes, I know Adams Central got to this point last year, but you got to think the South Adams game might have been their Super Bowl. And you wonder if kind of having that bounce back the next week, making that long trip, CC in a close game. And finally, the Senators of West Washington go to Lutheran. It has been 26 years since West Washington made the 1A state championship game. They're a good team. I think Lutheran's got too much for them.
I've listened to you talk about Lutheran all year long and the people they have, and I think back to the game they did not get to play when they could not get officials because they were all booked up, and they couldn't play the game on Saturday because 13 recruits had to go on college visits. Say no more, Lutheran big.
Well, some of them were taking SATs.
I don't care.
Either way, Lutheran against West Washington. I like Lutheran in that contest as well. There you go. Our predictions sure to go wrong from across the state of Indiana. Time now for a recruiting conversation, and we do that each and every week with our buddy Alan True from 24/7 Sports.
This is Alan True from 24/7 Sports with this week's State Champs Recruit Report. Concord quarterback Ethan Kane, 6'1", 195-pound senior, has made his college decision, committing to Indiana State. In Kane, Indiana State gets a leader who's been a varsity starter for 3 seasons, missed part of his junior season with an injury, but came back with an outstanding senior season, passing for 2,047 yards and 20 touchdowns and rushing for 2 more scores. During those 3 seasons, he led his team to 2 conference titles and now joins the Sycamores. Joshua Sales, a junior offensive tackle from Brownsburg, continues to pick up Division I offers. He was offered a scholarship by Maryland recently. No surprise that 6'6", 275-pound Sales has next-level ability as a potential left tackle. The Terrapins now join several schools on his list, including Big Ten foes Indiana and Purdue. One senior in the state that's picking up offers is Ethan Crow, a 6'5", 300-pound offensive lineman from Center Grove. He was offered a scholarship by Jacksonville State recently. Crow has several other opportunities, including a preferred walk-on from the Clemson Tigers and an offer from Tennessee Martin. For this week's State Champs Recruit Report, I'm Alan True.
I've always been really good at math and science, and I knew I wanted to work in healthcare, but not as a doctor. So I chose Lawrence Tech's biomedical engineering program. I've pushed myself to take internships, like this one, at a hospital in an orthopedic research lab. Thanks to Lawrence Tech's unique, hands-on style of education, I'm graduating with a published research paper and a job. Lawrence Tech, where Blue Devils dare.
Welcome back on State Champs Indiana Extra Point, presented by Lawrence Technological University, alongside Bob Stambazze, Greg Rakestraw with you. Thank you so much for joining us. Our Spotlight segment, and we got like a whole list of people. Well, half of them, when you only have this many games left, we've already kind of referenced in terms of the great job they have done to get their team to this point. So we're going to shrink this down to 3 players we'll focus on in this segment because we just kind of quickly brushed over Carmel winning at Homestead by a score of 31-7. I had the pleasure of seeing Carmel 5 times during the regular season. They really have 3 featured tailbacks that would virtually start for any other team in the state. But their leader is Dylan Downing. He touched the ball 9 times, had 112 yards in Carmel's victory at Homestead.
You know what's exciting? When you see a team 5 times, you get a letter jacket, so congratulations. Yep. But when you look at this outstanding team that Carmel does have, when you're talking about the versatility they have in the backfield, and then you look at this outstanding back of Downing, 112 yards last week against a good defensive team of Homestead, that speaks volumes.
Now, clearly, you're not a fan of Saturday Night Live. 5-Timers Club, I get a nice little, kind of smoking jacket and robe is what I get.
Most of the time, you get a blanket with a C on it, but we'll talk about that later.
I know the AD. I'll see if I can get that done. Dalen Taylor from Indianapolis Chittard. Again, credit to Concordia. They kept it a game in the first half, and given the schedule that Concordia plays and the job that Coach Manigal does, that didn't surprise me. I just thought that Chittard had too much and would pull away. It was in the third quarter. They scored 4 touchdowns in the third quarter, and Taylor, 231 yards, 5 scores, 15 carries.
I just got to say this. When you are a running back and you have over 200 yards against a Fort Wayne Concordia defense, it's very, very athletic and quick. That speaks volumes about you as an athlete and also about your hogs up front getting you that spacing to get out and go.
And finally, the Hobart Brickies. They ran for 316 yards in beating New Prairie. DJ Lipke, 203 yards and a touchdown. Riley Johnston, 96 yards rushing. Matthew Benton, 2 interceptions and a fumble recovery for a touchdown. And as mentioned earlier, this team of the 70s, 80s, and early 90s, they are back in the semi-state for the first time since 1996.
I just like saying Hobart Brickies, but this is an outstanding program that been around a long time in regards state level. We read about them all the time. The history they have up there in Hobart, a lot of pride from. If you talk to alumni from there, they get excited about the Brickies every year. So this is really cool for them.
The Bricky Bowl, obviously a legendary venue, no longer in use. The Brickyard Stadium at their campus now. I actually get to call a college bowl game at that place on December the 7th. I may have the Brickies a week earlier in the 4A state championship game. So there you go, our spotlight segment. Again, there were great performances across the state of Indiana. Those are 3 that we wanted to highlight. Obviously, we had a lot to talk about on State Champs Indiana Extra Point, but they've always got a lot to talk about on State Champs Indiana, the flagship show that you can see on Fox Sports Indiana. It debuts every Sunday, multiple airings every week. And for the latest on the program this coming week, here's the host and Lauren Plant.
All right, thanks, guys. Hey, this is the time of year we can't wait to put together our State Champs programming. This Sunday, 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Central, we'll have a ton of semi-state championship games. You got to check it out. Remember, State Champs Indiana is your home for high school sports. Watch it again this Sunday, 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Central on Fox Sports Midwest.
I'm on the Blue Devil football team, and that's a great place to be because other colleges wouldn't let me be both a football player and a nursing student. And just because I'm a dog on the field doesn't mean I can't take care of people. And man, do I love people. The small class size at LTU give me awesome access to my nursing professors. Lawrence Tech, where Blue Devils dare.
Welcome back for the final time on State Champs Indiana Extra Point, presented by Lawrence Technological University. One more time, thank you, Chris Landis and Greg Mash behind the scenes. And thanks to our friends at the ISC Sports Network, who also carry this show on Thursdays and Fridays. It debuts on Wednesdays at 5 o'clock Eastern Time on the various social media channels of State Champs Indiana. Again, my game this week will be Center Grove and Ben Davis. You can see that on ISC and My Indy TV in the Indianapolis area. Baz, if there was a game you could attend this Friday night, which one you picking?
Well, East Noble. I would love to see East Noble and Hobart. That game is going to be an outstanding football game. Hobart's got to get on the road and go, but this is going to be a battle of, I just think, strength up front in this ball game. I look for it really to be a very, very low-scoring football game.
Maybe a quickly moving game as well, because teams want to run the football.
Oh, no, there's no doubt about it.
Yeah, as far as our cameras are concerned on State Champs Indiana, Maryville Carmel, Ben Davis Center Grove, Bloomington South New Pal, West Washington Lutheran. Those are the games we'll be featuring from a highlight standpoint. A reminder, a weekend from this one. 1A, 3A, 5A state championships Friday the 29th, 2A, 4A, 6A on Saturday the 30th. I'm lucky enough to have the television call of 4A and 6A and the radio call of 5A. Before we exit stage left, a congratulations to my co-host, like you don't have enough jobs going on, the new softball coach at Bishop Luers High School. Congratulations.
Well, thank you very much. I look forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun.
All right, so along with Coach Baz, this is Greg Rakestraw. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll do it again next week with a state finals preview edition of State Champs Indiana Extra Point, presented by Lawrence Technological University.